Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the Grit and Equity Talks podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. I hope you guys are having a wonderful springtime. School's wrapping up. We are excited about graduations around the corner, looking at, the schools that our children or students will be attending the next year. Some of you are getting your new teaching assignments. With that said, let's go right into our episode. First things first, the Grit and Equity Talks podcast with Dr. India White will be featured on X Factor EDU network hosted by Dr. Matthew Joseph, and it can be found on Spotify. You can also find it on all of my main social media outlets, which are Facebook is Miss India White, LinkedIn is The India White, Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach, Instagram is Indie238, YouTube is India White 123, TikTok is Dr. India White, Threads is Indie238, and Blue Sky is Dr. India White. Check out the website, www.india-white.com for books, blogs, or to schedule me for a speaking and coaching event for your school or organization. Also, I'm excited to announce we've got some upcoming conferences. I know here we have the NCTM conference at the end of the month in Minnesota. We've got the FCTM conference in Florida, the joint conference, NCTM, NCTE conference. We've got a wonderful time we're expecting at Camped, NCSM and NCTM conferences and beyond. I'm super excited to be a part of all of those wonderful events with you guys, and I'm thankful to everyone that has mingled with me over the years as we've continued to spread good news about grit in the math classroom, and not just grit, just great teaching practices and how we can all help each other as leaders, how we can help teachers, and how we can definitely help our students. Also, please check out the Grit Mini Workshop on the Grassroots Workshops website. So super thankful for the tribe of the Grassroots Workshops websites and what they're doing over there. Also, tutoring opportunities for you at the Grit Academy. So if you are wanting to send your students over for some online tutoring, I would be honored to help. Our team would be honored to help. So send them our way. Now, this episode is if you are trying to close the achievement gap, but you're always having classroom management issues, or your students aren't motivated to do the work, or you just wanted to learn more, just bits and nuggets about how to either just have some great practices, principles for teaching, and just being gritty overall, then you can join me on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast. Also, don't forget your grit calendars. They are there for you. They come in handy. So super excited to offer that to you guys. Now, with that said, I do want to go into our show today. We'll be talking about gritty consistency. We need to talk about consistency. We are so close to finishing so many different goals, deadlines, so many different things are taking place, and some people are burning out. Some people are giving up. Others are just not knowing what to do. They're feeling stuck. And so I want to talk about consistency, gritty consistency. And so if you've ever been on my show before, if you're not, I talk about grit, which is having great resilience in time. Dr. Angela Duckworth, give her flowers. She says that it's having passion and perseverance to obtain long-term goals. I think it's, just alongside of that, it's having that great resilience in time, meaning you have to know how to manage time management as you're getting things done. I like to also talk about grit and focusing on having a growth mindset, focusing on self-efficacy and things like that. And I think this is so imperative because in order for us to really fulfill our destinies and get things done, you're going to have to be gritty. But of course, life can get in the way, and it can cause you to feel plugged up a little bit where you're not as consistent and you feel like kind of just slacking off or just not really, achieving certain things or giving up. And so how do you not fall into the temptation of, being weary or, wanting to just throw in the towel, wanting to just walk away from certain things? It's going to take having that gritty consistency. Now, some tips that I have for you guys regarding being consistent. And this goes for any area of life. I talk to mainly teachers and principals here, but you need to have goals, right? Especially in the education system. Right now, we're in April. So, you have so many different things going on. You have to start looking at testing of students, graduations, college acceptances. There's so many different things, students moving from, being promoted from middle school to high school, elementary to middle, things like that. And so, how do you remain consistent? Well, first off, have some goals. Pull out your ippy dippy, your individualized professional development plans that you did at the beginning of the year. See, where are you with that? Pull out your district goals. Pull out, some things going on within the state and, NAEP data. Look at some things and see what are the goals that you set for your classroom, for your school building, where you wanted to really make gains. So look at that. And then, of course, make deadlines. So if you have not made deadlines, it's never too late to make deadlines, right? You can say, okay, I've got how many weeks left? 6 weeks left, or, however many weeks left you have. And then start putting some things in there, maybe some 2 main big nuggets that you want to accomplish within the next 6 weeks. But then, some small little, projects here and there that can fall underneath the umbrella. I would say, you could gather a team to help you organize that. Also, having accountability partners. So when you're having accountability partners, this is so just what you're always going to need. It's not only convenient, but it is really the answer to making sure that you get over any ruts, because life happens. You're going to have some adversity, some hardships, and you're going to need accountability partners to be able to say, okay, let's, you said you're going to do this at the beginning of the year. This is where you are. And whether that's you're confiding in another colleague or, in a supervisor or, someone else that is in the same profession as you, then it's imperative that you do what you can to have those accountability partners so that they can help keep you on track. Number 4, don't procrastinate. I'll be talking a little bit more about procrastination as well. Don't procrastinate. Now, it's very tempting to procrastinate because sometimes you might be dealing with anxiety. You might want to push it off as long as you can. Maybe you're one of those people that maybe you perform well under pressure. And so, you'd like to procrastinate. I would say that if you are that type of person, at least prepare enough so that, when it's time for things to go on, you're not like scrambling like so much that you're just out of control and it doesn't come together. And then, of course, have fun. Have healthy competitions. Have fun with this. Set little baby step competitions within yourself. Healthy competition is competing with only yourself and not with others. Some people get off on, like competing with other people and, seeing it. I personally, I think it's better to compete within yourself. Compare yourself to where you were 5 years from now or 5 years before, the last year. If you compete within yourself, it's, I don't know, it's healthy. I think that the danger of competing with others is it might not, first off, you've not been in their shoes, right? Like we've not been in their shoes and we just don't know their motive. We don't know their background. We don't know, we really don't know what their goals are. So it kind of doesn't make sense. And why does it matter? I don't know. I'm just that type of person. I'm not going to compete with, I just personally, I don't see the benefit of competing. I think that sometimes people do this. They'll compete and then they get what they want and then it backfires. And then it's something that, they thought they wanted and now they're like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst thing in my life. Right. So sometimes it's not healthy to compete. I remember, back in the day when I was doing different works as an administrator and things like that. And, there was a lot of talk about, how do you become, promoted? How do you do things like that? Well, one thing I know is that there's just an underlying universal principle that promotion, if it's for you, promotion comes to you. You don't have to hunt down promotion. There's a scripture verse that says promotion comes from the Lord for believers. Promotion comes from the Lord. So when you're competing, you're trying to outdo someone or trying to do all that. You don't have to do all that. I think it's a waste of time and a waste of energy. I think that if something is for you, it will appear, it will present itself to you, and you'll be able to walk forward in that, and everything will line up. It won't fall apart. There's another thing it talks about how like the blessings of the Lord, it makes rich and adds no sorrow. And this is another scripture verse. And I say this because sometimes people are seeking for things and it looks like it's a blessing, but behind that door could be so much sorrow, misery, torment, hardships. And so we have to be careful in this season that as we're also being, mindful, and we're having a healthy competitions, and we're being, consistent with, through grit, that we also kind of do this consistency, gritty journey, knowing our place in our destiny and our purpose, and not looking to see if the grass is greener on the other side. So with that said, I think, having fun and having those healthy competitions is key, and not procrastinating is key as well. Now, speaking on not procrastinating, I did find some things for you rock stars I wanted to go over. So, all right, so let's watch this about procrastination. It's from Denzel Washington.
Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start now and watch how small actions turn into unstoppable momentum.
I like that. Small actions turn into unstoppable momentum. Let's keep going.
The longer you wait, the harder it gets. The time to act is now. You've got to take full responsibility for your actions, your choices, and where you are right now in life. No one else can change your path but you. It's easy to point fingers, blame the circumstances, the people around you, or the challenges that come your way. But the truth is, everything you're experiencing, good or bad, is a result of the decisions you've made up until this moment. The world is...
Wow. It's pretty good information. Let me see if I can fast forward this some.
Never take the first step. And that's how procrastination wins. It traps you in a cycle of inaction, convincing you that you need more time, more resources, or more confidence. But the truth is, you'll never have everything you think you need to start. You'll never feel 100% ready.
That's pretty powerful. I think that's why I don't know about you, but sometimes, that happens in my life as well, where I'm not sure if I have all the resources. So I hold off on something, or I'm just not sure if I want to, pursue a certain journey or path, because I just, it just feels like you'll never have enough. But like he's saying in the clip there, just get started. You just got to do it, right? So let's get back to this.
My responsibility is so crucial. It forces you to act despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite the imperfection of your situation. The key is not waiting for the perfect moment, but learning how to make the most of the moment you have right now. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step forward. A decision you make, no matter how difficult, is a sign of progress.
I like that. It's saying a decision that you make is a sign of progress. And that is so true. And it's crucial. It's essential for life success. Sometimes people don't make steps forward because they're worried about people that might not want them to win, might not want them to be successful for various reasons. It could be jealousy. It could be culture. It could be race, language. It could be gender. I don't know. It could be some crazy story that they heard, or you remind them of someone in their past life or in their past memories that they didn't mesh with well, so sometimes that causes people to feel discouraged. So I hope that if you're an educator, principal, or just a person watching, and you're feeling like, I don't know if I want to, move forward with certain things, I hope that you can get outside of that box of caring about what people think about you, and that you'll be able to move forward anyway. Because what I find in this life is that the people that care about you, they're going to stick around no matter what. And those that acted like they were for you, your so-called friends, um, so-called whatever, they're going to fall by the wayside anyway. And it's so interesting. I think of, what we do in life sometimes. Sometimes we do so much to try to fit in, right? We do so much to try to make sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and still, you'll find people still will not accept you. People will still hate you. People will still be jealous and be silly. Okay. That they have the right to do that. One of my mentors told me she would say, India, what other people think of me is none of my business. Again, what other people think of me is none of my business. And if you're trying to remain consistent and overcome procrastination, you're going to have to stop thinking about what everybody else thinks and move forward, because it really is none of your business what they think about you. And it really doesn't matter, because it's not like they're paying all of your bills and doing, backflips for you. So it doesn't matter. Now, let's get back to this. Let's hear what else. I'm going to jump through it a little bit, only because I don't want it to be flagged for copyright.
The moment you start taking responsibility is the moment you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. They add up to something much larger than you ever expected. You don't need to know everything or have every step laid out in front of you. What you need is the willingness to act, no matter how small that action is. Each time you do something, anything, it's a victory. And those victories start to build on each other.
Exactly.
When
and I think too, we need more small victories, right? I think people are pursuing happiness, and the people that are not happy, they will take happiness from others, or try to, because honestly, in their little souls, they're just not happy, right? And I think that's why some people procrastinate. They miss deadlines. They miss great golden opportunities, because honestly, they themselves just aren't happy. And so in order to not be like that, and in order to be victorious in your own life and to win and be gritty, and to get things done, and when you start getting those small victories, that grit takes over. So in order to do that, you've got to just take a step. And that's why it's so important that you have deadlines and that you have people to hold you accountable, so that you can celebrate the goals that you are actually meeting and winning in, right? All right, so let's keep going. About focusing on what you can control.
Procrastination, it shortens the time you have to doubt yourself, to make excuses, or to second guess the steps you need to take. It makes you accountable, not just to others, but to yourself. How many times have you told yourself you'd work on something, only to let the day slip away without getting anything done? That's procrastination winning. But when you commit to a deadline, you take away procrastination's power. You no longer have the luxury of waiting. The clock is ticking, and it's time to move. Setting a deadline also helps you prioritize. Without a deadline, everything feels urgent. You're scattered, overwhelmed by 1,000 different tasks, none of which seem to get done. But a clear deadline forces you to focus. It tells you what matters most, what needs to get done now, and what can wait. When you know that a deadline is looming, you become more efficient. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter, and you zero in on the one thing you need to accomplish. Deadlines demand your attention and your energy. They create an environment where you can't afford to waste a single moment.
I like that. The next one, he says, is
understanding that failure is part of the process and doesn't define your worth.
Right.
Silencing the inner critic isn't about ignoring your fears or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them and choosing not to let them control you. Fear will always be there. It's a natural part of being human, but fear doesn't have to stop you. In fact, fear can be a sign that you're on the right. It's only when you move forward in spite of fear that you prove to yourself that you're capable of achieving more than you ever thought possible. Instead of letting fear hold you back, Use it as motivation to keep pushing forward. Got there by taking imperfect action, learning from their mistakes, and continuously improving. Instead of waiting for everything to be just right, take action now, even if it's not perfect. The more you do, the more you'll learn, and the better you'll become. The more you shut down that inner critic, the more you step into your power. Procrastination loses its grip on you because you're no longer listening to the voice that tells you to wait.
Now they're
First,
talking about,
it seems more logical, right?
now they're talking about having a resilient mindset. So they just talks about being consistent, which means you've got to overcome that fear and silence the inner critic. And now they're talking about resilience.
Ease into your day with the simple stuff, and then tackle the harder tasks when you're warmed up. But that's procrastination's trap. By the time you get to the hard task, you've already lost precious time and energy. The more you delay it, the bigger it gets in your mind. It becomes this insurmountable challenge, something to be feared and avoided at all costs. But when you take it on first, you shatter the illusion of how big or difficult it is. Once it's done, you realize that it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought, and even if it was, you now have the strength to handle whatever comes next. Another powerful aspect of tackling the hardest task first is that it eliminates the decision, makes the stakes higher and the task more stressful. By confronting it first, you reduce the risk of it becoming a looming disaster. You're showing up for what matters most, and that decision to take action sends a message to yourself and to the world that you're serious about your goals, about your work, and about making progress. Tackling the hardest task first doesn't mean you won't face challenges along the way. It doesn't mean that everything will suddenly feel easy, but it does mean that you're no longer allowing procrastination to have a hold on you. You're taking control, making a choice to act, to move forward, and to take on whatever comes your way.
So I think we've heard quite a bit from that. I thought that was pretty cool. Just so many different things it talked about in there, with remaining consistent, having a resilient mindset, of course, being, that growth mindset. And then, of course, silencing your inner critic. I think it's so key for if you're trying to accomplish anything today. I would also say forgive yourself, forgive your shortcomings. Understand that you're not perfect, you're human. And it's okay to be human, and it's okay at times to not be okay, and to get the help you need so that you can continue to move forward. All right, so let's keep going. Now I want to talk about.
Here's my transformation story in less than 5 seconds. I used to be lazy, self-absorbed, did a lot of drugs, I sucked. Now I don't. Plot twist. But in that journey, which was for the record longer than 5 seconds, I had a really cool emotional growth. And that was from a place where I didn't respect myself to a place where I did. What changed? What was the secret ingredient? Want to know? You guessed it. Discipline, baby. It was doing the things that I said I was going to do despite resistance, which is incidentally my definition for discipline. This video is how I cultivated it from a mindset point of view. And heads up, this whole thing works way better if you're physiologically fulfilled, drink enough water, eat the right food, exercise, all of the cliches. And also it'll happily work in tandem with those classic discipline hacks. Step 1, reframe discipline as a function of self-love.
All right. So he's saying, so we're trying to be consistent. That's going to take discipline. He's saying, see it as self-love towards yourself and towards your destiny, your purpose.
There's this pretty iconic Will Smith interview where he's talking about discipline, and the way that he talks about it is a function of him loving himself. Because he loves himself, he is going to treat himself like somebody he loves.
I like that.
The example he uses is pizza.
You say to yourself, hey man, look, I know you want to eat that pizza and it'll be really good, but I can't let you eat that, man, because if you eat that pizza, you're going to feel like shit, and I love you too much to let you eat that. Self-discipline is self-love. If you want to be happy, you have to love yourself.
I really like starting here because I think that discipline can get pretty toxic if it comes from the wrong place. So me, for example, when I was trying to quit drugs on willpower alone, it just didn't work. It would always be short-lived and empty and full of guilt and shame. And I was just trying to turn myself into this obedient robot. But when I reframed it as, well, I love myself, therefore I'm going to treat my body as a temple, it became a lot easier and a lot more sustainable. Now, here's the cool thing.
That's pretty powerful. I think it's pretty powerful that he was talking about that, like having that self-discipline, that self-love, and having those conversations. Say, because you love yourself, you're not going to procrastinate, or you're not going to do that. So even principals, teachers, educators, as you're working with your students, as you're wrapping up the end of the school year, have those conversations. Because I love myself, I'm going to have self-care. I'm going to take care of my health. Not only that, I'm going to take care of my mental health. I'm going to end this year happy, on a good note, on a up. I'm not going to allow the little things to drive me, up the wall. I'm going to win in this. And I'm going to do it through grit. I'm going to have that resilience. I'm going to have that growth mindset, that self-efficacy. I know I can do this. I know I can help students win. I know I can prepare them for the next level. And I'm going to do it with the with the amount of time that I have. And I believe in myself. So I hope that you guys are able to, do that, and have that type of mindset, and that train of thought as you're moving forward. Let's keep looking at some more of what he had to say about discipline.
Self-love can give you discipline, but discipline can also give you self-love and self-respect. By acting like somebody who you would respect, you naturally, just by definition, respect yourself. So I noticed a few years ago that I really respected people who conquered their fears. And meanwhile, I had this fear of certain marine life, mostly squids, octopi, sort of sharks, I guess, kind of even fish, to be honest. And so I started getting into the ocean a lot more and looking at these creatures close up. And after I did this, I would always be like, damn, I face my fears. Oh, now I respect myself. Cool. Step 2, make discipline part of your identity. So to start this step, we need to take a mental shift, and that is accept that being a disciplined version of yourself is inevitable. The reason we're doing this is because people act in line with the person that they think they are. Very easy example, Michael Jordan thought he was a winner, so every time he'd lose, he would double down to win again, because that is what was consistent with his identity. Wow. Similarly, that dude that you went to high school with, who's now a massive stoner, won't get off the couch because that is not in line with his identity. So the thing that I've found works for me is painting a very internalize the threat of not doing this. We're going advanced class now. We are going to threaten ourselves into being disciplined. And this might not work for everybody. Like I said at the start, this is just my method. Just take what works and leave what doesn't. But I may as well go over everything. Loss aversion is proven to be a more powerful motivator than gain. You would rather avoid losing $1 than gaining $1. The way that we can use this to our advantage to trick our own brains is to make us feel like we are losing something if we're not disciplined. For example, for me, starting work is harder than sustaining it. It's like that first push on the pedal of the bicycle. It's always going to be a bit harder than the one when you're actually cruising. But you can have all the self-love and identity in the world, but you won't be disciplined unless you actually start doing something. So I've got 2 techniques here that I split into starting systems and eliminating friction. A starting system is just whatever gets you going. So one thing for me, as an author, still feels new to say that, I'll often not really feel in the mood to write. And this is because it's hard. Who wants to do hard things? My starting system to get over this is to write what I hate. It's to rant. And usually I'll just pick some extended family member that I don't like and just have a little rant about them for 5 minutes, and then, now I'm typing. Now the good words that I actually wanted to write aren't as difficult. I've started the bike, now I'm pedaling. Life is good. Another starting system was one that my brother was telling me about. He was having trouble getting up out of bed in the morning. He just kept hitting snooze on his alarm clock, which I think we all can relate to. And so he got this app called Barcode Alarm Clock. The alarm on your phone won't turn off until you scan a barcode. So he would set that barcode to the coffee in his kitchen. So he would have to get up, walk to the kitchen. Now he's at the coffee. He may as well make himself the coffee, and now he is awake. What I really like here is he made starting pretty much non-negotiable. The second bucket of starting.
Okay, so I can go on and on with this guy. I think some amazing things that he was talking about. I thought he was kind of silly. I enjoyed watching that. So I learned from that, having some systems to help you get started. You might not have that answer. You might have to hire someone to come in, some consultant that can build a system for you, or, maybe talk to some leadership and figure out what you guys can do together, so that you guys can have a system that'll work. And then, of course, like you said, it's a part of self-love. Discipline is a part of self-love. So I hope you guys were able to get something out of that as you are doing your best to not only be disciplined and not procrastinate, but to just win with that gritty consistency. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for joining me today on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. Again, this show it's going to be featured on the X Factor EDU network, hosted by Dr. Matthew Joseph, and you can find it on Spotify on the X Factor EDU network. Also, you can find it on my main social media outlets. You've got Facebook as Miss India White, LinkedIn is the India White, Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach, Instagram is Indie238, YouTube is India White 123, TikTok is Dr. India White, Threads is Indie238, and Blue Sky is Dr. India White, I think. Okay. Check out the website www.india-white.com for books, blogs, or just schedule me for your next event. Speaking of events, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at many of those events listed. MCTM at the end of the month. Let's see. Let's make it happen. If you have a student that needs tutoring, I have a couple students. I'm super excited about it. Send them my way so that we can get them tutored and help them to win. And again, we come on the show because if you're ever trying to close the achievement gap, you have classroom management issues, or students aren't doing work, they're not motivated, you need some solutions, come to the show, join me on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast, and we'll work out some things together. So thank you so much again, guys, for joining me on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast. And until next time, stay gritty. See ya.